A dying alternator rarely fails all at once. Instead, it sends out a string of warning signs for days or even weeks before it finally leaves a car stranded in a parking lot with a dead battery and a driver who has no idea why. The alternator is the part responsible for recharging the battery and powering every electrical system while the engine runs. And once it starts to weaken, the entire car begins to show it in ways that are easy to miss until it's too late. The first sign is a dashboard battery warning light. Despite its name, this light almost never means the battery itself is bad. It's the alternator's own diagnostic system telling the driver that voltage output has dropped below normal, which is one of the earliest and most reliable clues something is wrong. The second sign is dimming or flickering headlights, especially at idle or low RPM. Because the alternator's voltage output is directly tied to engine speed, a weakening unit often can't keep up with electrical demand when the engine is barely turning over. Headlights that noticeably brighten when the driver revs the engine are showing a textbook symptom of alternator decline. The third sign is slow or malfunctioning power accessories. Power windows that crawl instead of snapping shut, a radio that resets unexpectedly, or dashboard gauges that behave erratically all point to inconsistent voltage delivery. Many drivers blame these issues on the individual components rather than the alternator supplying them power, which delays proper diagnosis for months. Fourth, a dead battery that keeps recurring despite replacement is one of the most expensive signs to ignore. If a driver replaces the battery and the same dead battery problem returns within a few weeks, the alternator is very likely the real culprit, since it's failing to keep the new battery charged during normal driving. Fifth, a burning rubber or hot electrical smell coming from under the hood can indicate a slipping alternator belt or overheating internal components. This smell should never be dismissed, since it often precedes a complete alternator failure by only a short time. Sixth, unusual noises like grinding, whining, or growling coming from the front of the engine point toward worn-out internal bearings inside the alternator itself. These bearings support a pulley that spins constantly whenever the engine runs, and once they wear down, the noise typically grows louder and more frequent by the day. Finally, the engine stalling or struggling to stay running at idle is often the last warning sign before total failure. Since modern engines rely on a steady electrical supply for ignition and fuel systems, a failing alternator that can no longer maintain voltage can cause the engine to sputter, stall, or shut off entirely, particularly when multiple electrical accessories are running at once. The alternator typically lasts between 7 and 10 years, or roughly 100,000 miles, but heat, corrosion, and worn drive belts can shorten that lifespan considerably. Replacing an alternator early, once a couple of these signs appear together, usually costs between $300 and $600. Waiting until complete failure often means a tow truck, a missed appointment, or being stranded somewhere inconvenient. Recognizing these 7 signs early gives any driver the chance to fix the problem on their own schedule instead of the alternator's.